regularly collaborates with other countries to improve security in the wider region.
One of the other things that we do here in the region is working with other nations, working with the U.S. Navy, and we add additional capacity. So as a submarine here in the region, and as this specific submarine, we're able to take away some of the burden from some of the other allied navies, take away some of the burden from other U.S. ships in providing security to the region. And again, this is the ship has got such a greater capacity that we can let some of those other ships take on some other missions that they're now fulfilling, because we have the ability to fill that role.
The Florida is currently deployed in the eastern Mediterranean. Missile tubes have been converted to allow Navy SEALs to exit and enter the sub. They may swim out in diving gear or onto specially designed mini-subs. Living conditions on board the Florida are certainly not spacious, but crew members still try to make it home-like.
This is my three boys. This is my oldest, Troy, and this is Trevor. And then little baby Trent, which he's trying to stay in here, of course, with some help.
Inside the submarine's canteen, lunch is being served. A crew member's day is divided into shifts of 6 hours. Those on board the submarine have access to a gym, cafeteria, and the internet to keep in touch with loved ones. Hobson, one of the ship's crew, says he misses his family, but is happy to serve his country.
Obviously, I can't take my family with me. I'm married and I have 2 kids, so that is one of the things I do miss, is just being with my family and having that time. But when I'm out to sea, I'm serving my country, and so that's what I'm here to do.
He adds that his rigorous training has prepared him to face most of the dangers he may encounter.
There's lots of dangers to being on board a submarine, obviously, because we are under the water in an enclosed space. So there are threats of fires and that nature, but that's not a big deal because we are trained to combat those casualties.
As lunchtime comes to an end, it's time for the crew members to head back to their posts and continue with their jobs.
Everyone on board a submarine actually volunteers to do the job, and they go through a rigorous training and qualification process so that we can prove to our superiors and the government that we can do our job on board the USS Florida.
Kirkpatrick says email helps him keep in touch with his family.
For us keeping in touch with the outside world here on USS Florida, we have a couple of different avenues that we can take. We have email, which is wonderful on board USS Florida. When I first joined the Navy, we didn't have email, so that's wonderful. Also, as far as getting news and sports, we get what's called messages on board.
As well as allowing submariners to keep track of what's happening on shore, new technologies are transforming submarine sonar systems. The Surveillance Towed Array Sensor System, SIRTAS, low-frequency active sonar, currently in use in the US Navy, sends extremely intense bursts of sound between 150 and 180 decibels at low frequencies into the water via a cable attached to an underwater speaker. But some experts are concerned that LFA sonar could be harmful to underwater mammals such as whales, which rely on their hearing and vocalizations for breeding, migrating, and feeding.
Introducing this intensity of sound into the ocean potentially affects not just marine mammals, but fish eggs and the integrity of the oceans as a whole. It's a very, very complex ecosystem, and if you begin to interfere in a significant way with 1 or 2 or 3 levels of that chain of life, you can upset the entire balance.
But the Navy says that the decibel level is roughly equivalent to that found in the front row at a rock concert.
You take the worst case as far as the energy right next to a transducer and you magnify that through the world and you put something else next to it, and yes, you could get a lot of deleterious effects. But if you look at how LFA really is going to be utilized and operated, and you look at the effects of how sound travels through the ocean, what animals are doing, you take a big picture look at that scientifically, and it doesn't really look nearly as bad as some people make it out to be.
The sound bursts are used to detect very quiet diesel, electric, and nuclear submarines, which the Navy says are difficult to find using conventional passive sonar.
There's 150 seismic survey vessels primarily looking for oil or exclusively looking for oil, which are considerably higher, 10, 15 dp higher than Surtas LFA, and they're pinging all the time.
As technology evolves, submarine developers continue to test and monitor new equipment to ensure it can safely share the seas with underwater creatures.
Off Hawaii, the USS Pickerel, a guppy snorkel sub, prepares to test its power and toughness. It'll plunge down 150 feet to gain momentum for the greatest leap ever made by a sub. The 70 crewmen said they weren't hurt during the leap. They just held on tight.
Submarines, stealthy, silent killers, and a symbol of man's ability to master the most extreme environments.